Chodesh Tov. Today is the 30th day of Sivan, Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. We're in chapter 4, just before it divides into two columns. We got to the two columns. The reason there's two columns is because apparently the Tzemach Tzedek wrote two different versions of the next section. The next section is not so short, and it's not so easy also.
So which section do you read?
So I'm going to read the Batra. You always read the last one, because the last one is better than the first one. It's a classic example of if you had to write another one, it means that there were some issues with the first one. But the first one apparently had things that are not in the second one. So, but we can't do both, so we'll do the second one, and I'll add if there's some points that he brought in the first one. Okay, so the question now is: we saw, according to the Tosfos Yom Tov, who is the Talmud of the Maharal, an explanation that was a little bit different than the Maharal, and his explanation was that knowledge is different than all the other attributes, all the other predicates that you could give of Hashem. That's his understanding. What is he doing by this? He's saving the Rambam a little bit. He's helping the Rambam a little bit. The Rambam, we said that in general, the Maharal didn't accept it at all, because he says Hashem is seichel, basically. He's mind. He's dat. And that's what the Rambam says.
Right.
And the Maharal says we can't say anything about Hashem. That's why we call him the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy, Blessed One. Why holy? Holy is something that's separate. It's unique. It's outside our realm. We don't understand what it is. So on.
Does the Maharal agree after Tzimtzum that it's okay, or does
he doesn't have it at all. He doesn't. He says he understands a very pshat in the Rambam. It's very interesting. This morning I heard a shir from Rav Ginsburg. So it happened to be on a Torah from Reb Nachman. And he mentioned something that is, a very sweeping view of Reb Nachman of Breslov. But Reb Nachman, as much as he was against studying philosophy books, especially the Moreh Nevuchim from the Rambam, he definitely defines Hashem as Seichel. He all the time says Hashem is Seichel. He says he's dat all the time. So it's a very interesting thing. That's exactly what the Rambam says. That's exactly what the Rambam says. By the Rambam, to achieve your purpose in life, you have to gain dat. You have to have seichel. If you don't have seichel, then there's nothing left of the soul afterwards.
Something you like, it doesn't mean that.
That's how he understands it. He understands that's what's left over. There's all kinds of levels of dat. Like you said, it's people who, even the simplest person has some understanding. But the Rambam says that understanding should be in the schalim and nivdalim, in those truths that are not dependent on your life, meaning that they're universal, they're true, they're not dependent on your experience. And that you need to develop, and that's why the Rambam sees the entire Torah as a universal truth. He says everything in the Torah is basically a seichel nivdal in a certain sense. In any case, so the Tosfot Yom Tov, the Maharal's student, he saves this a little bit. He wants to save the Rambam a little bit. And he says that that is not the definition of Hashem. Let's read it. Imken, 7 lines from where it splits. Imken, mashu yitbarach mekira mito kmo shehi eino bebchinat yediah klal chas v'chalila. So he himself, he's not that. He doesn't know himself in the way that you understand knowledge. It's not knowledge at all. And again, what he knows himself, how he knows himself, that's the definition of Hashem in himself. That's the identity. Who is he? So he says that you can't say, that you can't understand what the Rambam said that way. That's not the meaning. You don't need everything the Rambam said, because he didn't say it about that. Rather, what the Rambam meant was that it's relevant. Knowledge is relevant only for his knowledge of the creation, not of himself. Meaning, when he extends himself out into creation, then it's called dat. Okay, then it's seichel. He knows creation through seichel. Okay, so how did you help me with this? Now he says, כי כך בחר לו הקדוש ברוך הוא לידע נמצאים בבחינת דעת. That's how Hashem chose to create the world. He chose to create the world. He didn't have to do it this way, but he did it this way, that he chooses to know creation through knowledge. Meaning he chooses the relationship, and we'll see in a moment that the relationship means that he chooses to give life through knowledge. The life force that he's giving is his knowledge of me. In other words, when Hashem says, "Ki etchem yadati mikol ha'amim," I know you from all the nations, it means I'm giving you special knowledge, I'm giving you special life force. And you can find many verses like this in the Tanakh. That knowledge is like a transfer of Hashem's life force into the creation. So that's how the Tosfot Yom Tov explains. לידע נמצאים בבחינת דעת ובידיעה זו יחיו ויתקיימו כדי שיהיו הם בעלי דעה. And what's the reason, according to the Rambam, and according to it says Tosfot Yom Tov, I can agree. Tosfot Yom Tov even agrees with this. He says, in order to give them life force, what does it mean to give me life force? To give me the purpose of my life. That I too will be a knower. That I too will exercise knowledge. That's what it means that Hashem is giving me life, so that I can know more. Now, what kind of nation do you build around knowledge? You build a nation of scholars.
A nation of
scholars, of people who understand that life is Torah, life is knowledge. These are very, very strong words. And he did it this way because if he would have known us not through knowledge, then we would not have had a purpose. In the same way that Hashem himself has no purpose. Hashem doesn't have any purpose. By the way, it's a very interesting thing that scientists today, the thing that's missing from science is purpose in nature. So what are they doing in a sense? In a sense, they're looking at nature as if it is God. Okay? Which is not so bad. It's not enough, but it's not so bad. There's a lot to be said in the merit of that thought. That the world does not have to have a purpose in order to justify its existence. Because Hashem wants it, that's why. It doesn't have to have purpose. Hashem wants it. There's something I keep repeating, which is when it comes to faith, we can't write off almost any opinion. Because every opinion has some place in Torah. Every faith has something. There is an instance of it, a type of it, in the Torah. You just have to put it in the right context. So if I say the world has no purpose, that's like saying that's why Hashem is not going to destroy it. Because if something doesn't meet its purpose, okay, so Hashem destroyed it. That's what happened with the flood. But after that he said, since the nature of man is to be evil, we talked about this, that this is what's called to sweeten the judgments in their source. That the same argument that he said that caused him to destroy the world with the flood now becomes an argument for why I'll never destroy the world. Because man can never be without. He's always thinking evil. So what's the solution? So give up. I'm not going to destroy it. Because I can't, it's not, destroying it is not going to take out the evil. So I have to work with it some other way. Does it mean there's no ultimate purpose? Maybe there is, but you can't see it right now. So because I can't see it, again, this is like to say that Hashem is not going to destroy the world. Doesn't mean that the world doesn't have purpose. It does have purpose. But in a certain sense, the fact that Hashem won't destroy the world, it means that there's no purpose. And that's okay. It's like the world is Hashem.
Why do we have to attach the whole idea of purpose up there? I mean, up there is something we don't know what it is.
Right.
I mean, purpose is a human.
Right. It's a human category. Hashem doesn't need purpose.
From our point of view.
But from my point of view, I need purpose. That's why a lot of people, they do mitzvot because they think, this is how I fulfill my purpose. Does Hashem want us to do it for that? No. A little bit. He also wants us to do it because he commanded, without the question of purpose. So you can't discount this idea that there's no purpose in the world. You can't throw it out completely, because you need it for certain things. מה שאין
The
כן,
Rebbe told someone I know in a breakthrough, was fried, that what do we need these mitzvahs for? So the Rebbe said to get close to him. That's why he did.
to get close, that's all. Is that the purpose of man? Maybe, maybe not. But again, when I say that my only purpose, my only goal in performing mitzvos is to follow Hashem's command, I'm not talking about purpose. Unless I say, okay, the goal of man is to follow commands. I'm a robot. That I don't think anybody will agree with. Okay? מה שאין כן, אילו היה מאיר עליהם מאורע פשוט, היו הם גם כן בלי גבול ותכלית. If Hashem would have connected to us the way He is Himself, we would be infinite and without purpose and without end. And that we can't be, then there's no creation. That's just God Himself. You didn't create anything. So it has to be through some dat, says the Tosfot Yom Tov. It has to be through something.
I mean, symptom is das in a way, isn't it?
So that's what Gabi asked. Would he agree that after the tzimtzum, and you could almost say that the Tosfot Yom Tov is telling us what the tzimtzum is. The tzimtzum is dat. That's exactly it. And we ourselves would be beyond knowledge and grasp. We couldn't grasp ourselves. And this is the solution. This is why it's not Kabbalah. Tosfot Yom Tov. No, I read only until the Madura Batra starts from Kilomar. This is the big chiddush. So he says, knowledge is not a predicate of Hashem in the sense of describing Him. And here we have to go back into the theory of predicates. There are two types of sentences you can say. Identity sentences, which are called by Kant, he calls it a priori or analytic sentences. They analyze what the thing is. So if you say God is knowing, I'm saying that it's an identity. I'm saying that He is knowledge. If I say God knows in the sense that I'm describing Him, not who He is, but what He is doing, it's called a synthetic sentence. A synthetic sentence is I'm adding some action to the object, to the subject. So Hashem knows, the knows is a verb, it's not an adjective. In English it's the same word. It's also in Hebrew. Hu yodea. You don't know if it's an identity or is it an additive, I think they call it, or a synthetic sentence. Kant calls it... Okay. לא יודע שהוא יודע that he is a knower. That's how you would say it as an identity. He is a knower. He knows. He has knowledge. And if I want to say that I know you, then know becomes a verb. It's a question of whether it's an adjective or a verb. So he says it's a pu'ula. And that's the Tosfot Yom Tov until the split now that we're going to see. That we'll start tomorrow. But this is a very important thing, that he changed, everybody understood that the Rambam was talking about an identity. He was talking about what Hashem is. Says the Tosfot Yom Tov, he's not talking about what Hashem is, he's talking about what Hashem does.
What Hashem
does. What He acts. So He acts with knowledge. It's the same way as saying that He brings the rain. Is Hashem rain? So some just say, of course He's not rain. He's not a weatherman. He's not.
So he's saving the Rambam.
Right. So he's saving the Rambam in his way.
Yeah.
In the rest of chapter 4, we'll see how Kabbalah saves the Rambam, or at least how Chassidus, Kabbalah according to Chassidus.
His teacher did not save.
No, the Maharal left him completely outside the building. He didn't want him inside. Okay.
כשהוא אומר פה לפני לא יום, הגאון הנ"ל זה המהר"ל?
תוספות יום. הגאון הללו,
והנה מתרץ, מתרץ.
אומר, כן.
מי זה הגאון הזה?
זה תוספות יום טוב.
אוקיי.
לא, זה המהר"ל.
אז המהר"ל אולי, כן? אחר כך, אוקיי. אני צריך לבוא.
אני צריך לראות את זה, אבל התוספות יום טוב מתחיל.
התקדמתי יותר מדי, למדתי בשעת המקרה.